Hello everybody and welcome to another list video here at Playing Board Games. Today we're going to be talking about our bottom five, our five least favorite investigators for reasons that we will get into here. If you don't know, this is a list we revisit every year around this time, obviously, because that's when it's come out. But we're excited to talk about our bottom five. Last week we released our top five for 2022. So let's see how we had some fun talking about the things we love. Now let's talk about the things we hate. Let's go to our number fives, starting with you, Bryn.
I got Stella Clark. Uh, she's just too good. She's got sure, her stat line is not the strongest one in the game. Far from it. But she gets an extra point of hit points. And admittedly, poor deck building. You can only include red cards, but you can do a lot of things with red cards. And her signature card, you get three of them. They add 3 wild, and if you fail, no consequences. Like, something about that ain't right.
I'm biting my tongue for reasons that will become apparent in the near future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's just a
Justin,
little
we're
too good.
twinsies.
Yeah, we are twinsies. Yeah. Travis, our number fives are both Jenny.
She's boring, man.
She's boring. Yeah, the jack of all trades doesn't really interest me, and like my big money, I'd rather do with Preston and Parallel Skids, which were actually both conveniently on my top five list. But the thing is, I've had a recent experience with Jenny, and it wasn't great. It was still fine, but the thing is, I look at Jenny and I'm just like, yeah, it's just kind of like boring. There's not enough to really engage me to keep going. Izzy is an absolute asshole, showing up at the worst times, and then she's not even there. But I did get to go into the final scenario with 5 mental trauma on Jenny in the Forgotten Age, which was a pretty fun little achievement to get done. But it's just that she's just kind of dull. Doesn't really interest me. It's kind of same for you, Travis.
Yeah, I think she's got a deck that I would play with the spending money archetype, but generally her deck building is just green cards. There's enough variety within that, I think, to make her interesting in conjunction with her ability and her stat line. And the Dunwich deck building is fine, but you don't get enough to really lend her any sort of niche.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, she doesn't really. It's not like you get It's just her ability is so plain that you don't really. I saw there was a forced learning Jenny deck, which kind of seemed neat for a flex Jenny, but even then, you still just have 3s in your stats. It's not that fun.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work so hard to do a normal thing.
To do anything, yeah.
Yeah, and her ability doesn't make up for that work that you have to do.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to our number fours. Bryn, who do you got?
I got Tony Morgan. I'm gonna say I do enjoy playing Tony Morgan. I think he's a lot of fun. I think he's also a little too good at what he does, which may be a running theme with many of the cards on my list here. 5 punch is a lot. Green combat is mostly based around the idea that you're going to have about 3.5 punch. You're not going to be good. So all the weapons give you, +2s and have upsides if you succeed by X or more. Tony doesn't even need to do the work. He just shows up and he's like, succeed by 2 or more, please. Oh yeah, also that action was free.
Thank you.
Take a money. He's just a little bit too strong. And his weakness of 2 brain, 2 foot doesn't really come into this too much. Admittedly, you do only have 5 sanity, and that's not a lot. But still.
Yeah, all those All those slots that you aren't devoting to make your punch
Yep.
workable, you can spend on not dying.
And like
Yep.
he doesn't even need to really use like a lucky cigarette case. Like he could just grab the succeed by two, remove a horror from the necklace, the relic, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Because then he just won't
Uh,
die.
yeah, because you don't need to spend your XP being better at fighting. You're already real good at it. Uh, and you get you get two signature assets, which again I think like I do appreciate the not quite mirror, but like he's got a whole bunch of signature cards. But they're guns. They're good. You don't need very many more good guns before you're just good enough.
Yeah.
And you can, because you have very flexible deck building. You get to pick a second color that is not purple. You don't get to play any assets from them, but that's okay. You can kind of make it do whatever you need it to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I say this every time we talk about Tony. He's just it's no coincidence that the two times we played him in Path Carcosa, all 5 house guests were murdered, like party killers.
Yeah.
It's not a he's just a little bit hyper efficient. Yeah.
Just a little bit. I think he should probably have 4 in his punch, and like an extra point someplace else, like maybe more foot because he's green. Maybe even 4 book to give him a little bit more, more choices to make while you're building your deck.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're good? All right.
Yeah.
My number 3 here. Sorry, my number 4. We're on number 4. My number 4 is Sister Mary. She's a holdover from last year. She's actually in the exact same spot. And it's mostly just because she doesn't interest me at all. Like, the Blessed thing is neat, but you're kind of like, you're forced into living that life with her, which is not, like, exciting to me. And also, like, her stat line is just... She sits in this weird spot that I thought Lily sat in for a long time, where you're kind of like the stuck between the Mystic and the Guardian. But then when I realized with Lily, if you just play her as a Guardian, like from the beginning, she's a lot better. And I was like, I actually kind of enjoy Lily now. With Sister Mary, if you try to live her as a Guardian, you have 3 fists. If you try to live her as a Mystic, you have 4 brain, and you don't get your awesome disciplines to make up for it. You just draw blessed tokens that you might not even draw. And she's just like not exciting to me. I don't like how she's forced into an archetype. And it's kind of just the same thing as last year, just not the kind of card I enjoy playing. And I'm sure I've seen her do well with other people. Like, I enjoyed when Travis played her, but for me, she just doesn't do enough. Travis, who's your number 4?
It's Monterey Jack. My experience playing him, he's like very boring. His card pool is effectively just yellow cards. You have like green cards you can play, but most of them, like, you kind of don't want to, I guess. Like, the good green cards that support investigating, you can't play. Stuff like Lola and level 1 lockpicks. The yellow cards don't really have any synergy with his 5 foot. Just kind of awkward, and the 4 book feels bad. You only have 5 level 0 yellow slots, so a lot of the easy book boosts you are very limited in what you can play. On top of that, I find his ability is kind of lackluster. On one hand, it's like kind of boring, and then you just get to draw another card or gain a resource or whatever, but it also makes you feel like you have to move around. Which quite often isn't really what you want to be doing as a Seeker. It's just, it's a neat idea, but like, doesn't really, it's like kind of a poor execution. Like, a lot of the ideas they had for him just kind of clash. And it doesn't really make a very cohesive investigator, in my opinion.
It would be, on this note, because it would be cool if we start seeing some secret cards that care about foot, because there's a lot of cross between the foot and seekers like Ursula, Trish, Finn, Monnery, right? I think that'd be cool. And I said this previously as well, but in the investigators that were spoiled for the Scarlet Keys, none of them seem particularly like in a class. So maybe we are going to get like a weird seeker who cares about foot. That'd be fun. Who knows? Because I kind of agree, especially on your point about the fact that you feel like you need to move. In our Edge of the Earth playthrough, I would feel bad the turns where I did not move because I was like, I'm leaving my ability on the table, which you don't want to do in this game whenever you can avoid it, right?
Yeah, and like Edge of the Earth isn't even that bad for it because the maps are so big. If you're playing something like Dunwich or Carcosa, there's gonna be so many turns where you're like, I need to stay here, man.
Yeah. yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. All right, let's go on to our number threes. Bryn, who do you got?
I got Mandy Thompson. Continuing the trend of investigators who are a little too good. Only she's not a little too good. She's a lot too good.
Like your opinion.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. A big part of my complaint about this investigator is that no matter who you are, Mandy Thompson is better at that deck than you are. Pretty close. Except maybe Jim Culver, because like she can't play the skull-oriented things, but also you shouldn't. You really shouldn't.
What?
Yeah, I think her stat line is like way too strong. She shouldn't have 5 in book. She should probably have 2 in her punch. But that's just like my opinion, man. Yeah, the other thing that really bothers me about her is a similar thing to. If any of you have ever played Magic and you've played against somebody who plays a card named Sensei Stiffening Top, you'll understand what I'm complaining about. People faced with decision paralysis who do not know what they want out of the thing they just tried to do.
Yeah.
And this is true of most search cards. Like, if the search is open-ended, you often end up with newer or less experienced players who play them and don't know what sort of cards they actually want out of their deck and end up taking forever to decide. And that is a little frustrating to me. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. She has the same deck building as Tony. She has the kind of similar stat line problem as Tony. We've talked about this before on the channel too, that they are both really strong investigators because they have a whole lot going for them. Banging ability, banging stat line, banging deck building. Like, wow. Yeah.
Yep. Just a little bit too much.
Yeah. My number 3 here is Jim Culver. It's finally time for me to understand that my relationship with Jim has been bad. This guy, I don't think it's a coincidence that the recent times that I've played him, it has been a struggle. And even with like new additions, like when I was like, guys, Nkosi, it's going to be great in Jim Culver. It's still just not good. And he's gotten to the point now where, like, I love the idea of Jim. I love the character of Jim. Like, Jim is my favorite character flavor-wise. I love the hell out of his story and his look and just everything about him. But everything about him flavorfully. But then when we get to this guy mechanically, I'm just like, no, thank you. He is my most wanted parallel investigator. And I'm hoping that that comes true because I'd love to see like a revisit of the skull mechanic because it kind of just does nothing. Like even the idea is what I said previously where I was like, no, Jim's thing is that he's consistent. But when you're still consistently shit, you're shit, right? Like it doesn't make you better, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I still love Jim, the flavor. I'm still going to probably one day play another Jim deck because it's like my fucking curse for some reason. But he is now here as my number 3 least favorite investigator.
Poor Jim.
Poor Jim. Travis, who's your number 3?
This is Stella Clark. I don't like how good she is. I don't like how she gets to ignore the game. I don't like how she gets 3 all the things Bryn said, but also, like, they're red, so you can get them back with resourceful, because why not? And they're also innate, because why the fuck wouldn't you be able to get them back with True Survivor, right? Which you can also get back with resourceful. Like, why? Why would you do this? Do you not think about things before you print them? Do you not play with them? Is this one of those things where they were like, we didn't think players would use it on tests with negative consequences?
Yeah, it's just a good unexpected courage.
Yeah, we didn't think players would try to reuse their skills in Survivor. Like, come on.
Yeah. I'm still biting my tongue on this one. All right, let's go to our number 2s. Bryn, who do you got?
All right, we've clearly made it through the point of investigators who are too good, and I don't like that because we got Jim Culver. The thing I don't like about Jim Culver is that he's always trying to trick me into thinking that he might be good again.
Yeah.
Yeah, Justin gets it. It's like every time I look at him, I'm like, this card is bad. Like he's got a terrible stat line for a Mystic with only 4 in his brain, and then 3 and 2 stats that we probably don't ever intend to use, and a passive that you have no control over. There is like 0 agency as to whether or not you can use it. And really, all it does is more 0, please. Like it's fine, I guess. Just every time they put out new cards, I'm like, maybe this time. Maybe we'll try building a Jim Culver deck. But I know it's going to be bad.
Yeah, but then you're like, I'll wait a second and see what Justin does, and then I'll see.
It's been my saving grace so far is that I get to watch Justin struggle through it, and I'm like, yeah, no, thank you.
Like,
I'm good.
I constantly I'll never forget the high where I got Jim to one-shot a Mindless Dancer with Song of the Dead once. And I need to remember that high is surrounded by a lot of lows of Song of the Dead doing nothing. Because I feel like Jim, he tries to trick you. He's like, I'm good. You'll remember the good times, but then it's like bad every other time.
Yeah. I think if they made Song of the Dead that didn't use charges.
Or alternatively, only spent a charge if you drew a skull.
Yeah. I would maybe be able to trick myself into trying again.
And then still being upset, being like, this is fucking garbage. 100%.
I paid XP to put a Blessed Blade in my deck. Yeah. This is trash.
100%. Oh, man, Jim, I can't wait to play you next. I'm looking forward to it, brother. It's going to be a good time. Oh. My number 2 here is Stella Clark. Pretty much exactly what Travis and Bryn said. There's just a lot going for her that makes her just a tiny bit, and like tiny has an emphasis that makes it big, tiny bit too strong. The fact that like her personal weakness, neither rain nor snow, you have 3 copies of, is kind of crazy. Her deck building would have been a lot worse if she didn't get like Quick Learner. Like, I understand you have to release cards that benefit the investigator, but when Stella already has so much going for her already, it kind of just seems like it's like piling on. I've played Stella Clark 1.5 times, and she's just like, I think she's most fun in the first scenario where you actually feel like you're failing and like taking advantage of her ability just to make up for losses. But then as soon as you get experience into the deck, and you grab like a True Survivor, it becomes just too powerful, and it kind of like, to me, kind of defeats the purpose of what the character should be, right? Like, Stella should always feel weak. It's kind of like the idea of her character's ability. However, when you can take advantage of that in gross ways, and then like in addition, you also have a very strong skill, that's your personal skill, that you can recur, is just a little bit too much, and I do hope that we see a parallel version that like maybe like goes down to a 1 of, right? Like, because I feel like for new players they shouldn't taboo it, because like we could even, I mean, like the new players might not play with a taboo list, but even if they tabooed her to only have one of her copies of neither Rain nor Snow, or neither Rain nor Snow are tabooed to remove themselves from the game, it would do a little bit to bring her power level down, and I think that would be nice. But right now, she's just like I can live with Tony being strong because his weakness is he has 5 brain, like 5 horror soak.
Yeah.
I can live with Mandy being strong because she's a seeker, and I've kind of just grown used to that. But Stella, I don't think like a survivor should be this strong. I feel like a survivor always needs to kind of suck less than the other classes just by the nature of their design pool. But yeah.
I do really think that neither Rain nor Snow should commit for a negative symbol instead of 3 wild.
Yeah.
Just because then it is like you are accepting you're going to fail it, but you get to dodge the consequence.
Yeah. And before we recorded this, Travis and I were talking about the starter deck investigators. Because last year, Travis had the Abomination, which is what I have the file name for all the starter decks saved together. And at this point now, like, Jacqueline is still a bit too strong as well. But, like, I can still just get behind her as, like, if, like, playing the support side of her is still very fun. Harvey and Nathaniel, while they're both playing, they can be a good time. And I think Winifred's a great success. I think Stella is just a little bit too strong in comparison to the others.
Yeah. Harvey does get to be very exciting to play because sometimes you just die.
Yeah.
Every card you draw, you never know. It might be the one.
It might be the one. Yeah. It's like when Travis had that one Dark Confidant, Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn magic deck. And every time I was hoping I had my finger on that clip button ready, waiting to see if it happened, but it never did. Travis, who's your number 2?
This is Parallel Daisy Walker. This card's bad. While you do get to play a couple of cards that normal Daisy doesn't get to, you're basically playing the same deck but worse, which is very different from the other Parallel Investigators. Yeah, I understand this was the first foray into it, and they want to make something a little bit weaker than Daisy, which is fair, but this is, like, atrocious. It's so bad, man. Yeah, it's... Like, they have to go... Like, you don't want... Like, the front side's not even better than just getting an action every turn. There's enough assets, or, like... Sort of, it's better to just generate an extra action every turn than it is to have, like, one explosive turn. There's, like... The card pool you don't want to play with normal Daisy front, because... Like... It's just kind of worse. You get, like... Book of Psalms, and I guess you can play Geared Up now. You get Grimm's Fairy Tales.
Yes!
Well, you don't really get anything for it. And then even the advanced stuff, the advanced weakness and asset, like what, you get to hold an extra book now? Like, come on, man.
No, but you need that slot for the Grimm's Fairy Tale.
Yeah, that's your Grimm Fairy Tale slot.
Yeah, like it's just bad.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to our number 1s. I'm gonna just say right now, before you look at this next page, I did miss a memo. But it's okay. It still works. One of these is not like the other.
Oh my god. You're telling me that you have to exhaust Grimm Fairy Tales and spend every time.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.
And that card is like worse than I remember.
That's hilarious. All right, Travis and Bryn, who's your number 1?
It's Lola Hayes. She's not even the best Lola in the game.
It's true.
No, she's not.
It's true.
No. For me, anyway. She falls into the same category as Jim Culver, where she's always trying to trick me into believing that she might be good again.
Yeah,
only she's better at it because she's prettier, and I'm more inclined to listen.
I think Jim's a very handsome man.
You know,
yeah, no,
he is.
That's on this one. Lola's wearing like a pound of makeup, dude.
Yeah, but underneath it, she's actually just Jim too.
Yeah.
Oh my
Like, she's everybody.
Yeah, she is everybody. It's
Yeah.
me, Will Yorick.
Oh man. No. By prettier, I mean like there's way more cool things that you could, and literally every card that comes out, it's like, oh man, does this work with Lola? Could we make that happen? Is this gonna suck? And the short answer is yes. But sometimes I have to learn it the hard way.
Yeah, my new least favorite thing about Lola from this year is that like whenever we talk shit about her, we get comments of people being, "No, Lola is good if you just play with my custom version of her," or "Lola is good if you just follow my 17-step plan to make this 5-card combo work." It's like, I mean, come on.
She can't even play Grimm's Fairy Tales and use it most of the time. Like,
The Grimm's fairy tale test. That's like
Yeah.
the baseline, yeah.
yeah, not only can she like not use it very well, she also probably can't trigger it half the time it could be.
Yeah, she doesn't really do anything better than other investigators. She doesn't really. She's not fun to play. It's just stressful. You take your
Well,
turn half the time, you realize, I can't have done that because I was in the wrong role. Haha. Like, just. It's no fun.
hold on. So you're telling me if I want to play a lady who has threes, I could just play Jenny Barnes and have 3 more total hit points and an extra money every turn, and I never have to discard all of my things?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't put Lola because honestly, I kind of just forget about her a lot of the time. We also like normally in the past we've not had Lola on this, but like I mean like Lola is also like the investigator I'm like least likely to play. Like I'll probably play Skids before I play Lola. But I do hope that they do a parallel Lola one day. I think that designing a neutral investigator was very difficult, and they obviously pulled it back because they didn't want her, as Bryn often says in these videos, not to obsolete anybody else. I just think that she's, as Travis said, she's a little bit too stressful to play. And like the one part of this game I don't want to be stressful is my investigator. Like I'm okay with like my draw deck being like not stressful because when am I going to draw my weakness? I'm definitely okay with the encounter deck being stressful, but like as soon as my ability becomes a problem, uh-oh. Uh-oh. However, my least favorite, as he has been here 3 years in a row, and I actually have new experience, I've recently played normal Skids, is normal Skids. He's just the least fun I've ever had playing this game is when I played Skids when I had a very small collection, and I played it with a friend, and they have not played the game since. They just have a bad memory of the game, and I keep being like, "No, it's different. Trust me. We'll play real investigators. I have 2 copies of the core set. Please don't walk away." But there's just not much working for him. Like you can do things, but it's still just like a little bit of a nightmare. And he still has that thing where in the back of my mind, he taunts me. Just like he's like, you had the worst time playing the game with me. I'm Skids O'Toole. That's his voice, by the way. And also like his ability at this point now is completely outclassed, I think. Like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
the spend 2 resources to get an action. Like Tony just does that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. You're telling
Yep.
me that this guy gets to show up as a combat-oriented green character, and he gets 3 in his punch, and he has to pay money to take his extra turn? I mean, sure, you can use the extra action for anything, but
yeah.
like I think he really should have 1 brain and 4 punch.
Yeah, I think if he was designed today, he would. But as I said last week's video, Parallel Skids is the best. I love Parallel Skids. He's incredible. But Core Set Skids still sits at the bottom with me. As I said, though, Lola could easily be my least favorite because I'd probably play her the least. But I don't think I actually think like I like the idea of Lola more than Skids O'Toole. Like if Bryn came to me and said, at the same time, he's like, I have an idea for a Skids O'Toole Bryn's Madhouse and a Lola Hayes Bryn's Madhouse, I'll always choose the Lola Hayes one. Like, always.
Wait, you don't want to show up and help work on a Schizo Tool deck that's going to play the game with Blackjack?
Probably not, Brent. Probably not.
That's fair.
All right,
That's fair.
let's do a Knuckle Duster Schizo Tool. The Skids who tries to kill himself. Oh, stop it. All right.
You showed up to play the game with Schizo Tool and Knuckle Duster, and I died to a rat.
Yeah. Oh, frick, -3. Frick, -3. All right. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to let us know in the comment who your least favorite investigators are, please let us know. I would love to read them. This is the wrong page. There we go. That's the right page. Thank you so much, everybody who's watching. We'll be back next week for another list video. Have a great one, and as always, GG's.